I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
We are the future, Charles, not them.
I'm kidding.
We're the X-Men, dated metaphor for racism in the 60s.
What's a Magneto? A very powerful mutant.
Hello everyone and welcome to Enter the X-Verse, where we are going through every single movie in the Fox X-Men catalogue. I am one of your hosts, Kyle.
I'm your other host, Nathan.
And my goodness, Nathan, here we are. It's season 2.
Season 2 of this show. We're here. This is it. Day 1.
This is it. We're in a new universe. It's a whole new world.
It's a whole new multiverse of madness, Kyle. That's what I call it.
I mean, we do have some crossover with Multiverse of Madness, don't we?
We have direct crossover. We have cast members, Kyle.
We do have cast members. So, yes, today we're talking about the movie that kicks off, a lot, I would say, X-Men 2000.
This movie, I think, only has one movie ahead of it that kind of sets up, you can adapt this, and that's Blade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is pre-Spider-Man, really.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and you could say that Blade, because it's a little bit more edgy, is also different, whereas this really is, even today, it still echoes what we are currently watching in our cinemas.
Yeah, that kind of, superheroes in the real world type view of how to do these movies.
Yeah,
whereas if you look at, the older superhero movies, like the Tim Burton Batman movies, those are very much not the real world, right?
Yeah, especially when you watch the George Clooney ones, and the skyscrapers are held up by big Greek muscle statues made of bronze.
Yeah, the older comic book movies have a kind of hyper realness to them that this movie is going for more sort of no, this is our world, but just a bit different.
Yeah, this is the not too distant future, Kyle.
This is the not too distant future. By which we mean 2005.
Yeah, we mean like a world where there was no financial crisis in 2008.
You know what, they don't age it too much because there's never a scene where someone pulls out like a big blocky cell phone or something.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's deliberately supposed to feel timeless, because I don't know if there's anything that happens in this movie where if you watched it today you couldn't believe this was the not too distant future from 2024.
Yeah, the only thing is the TVs are small and square, right? That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it, you know. But things can come back into fashion. They're actually not TVs, Kel, they're smartphones.
Ah, right. They're really big smartphones that are mounted on the wall.
They're projectors that you can buy on TikTok for 49 pence.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, to echo you, how did you first come to this movie?
Oh, so this is going to be a little bit more interesting for us, I think, because these films, they don't predate us, but they probably predate us as movie fans.
Yeah, we were not going to the movies when this movie came out.
Exactly.
We were babies.
So I think I first became aware of X-Men probably when The Last Stand came out. But I think that I watched these ones before that. This was like a thing that you would play in the playground, you know, let's be the X-Men, you know? But it wasn't the animated series. It was these leather-clad X-Men, right?
Yeah, I'm the same. My mum and dad had the first 3 films on DVD, so I would just watch them all the time.
Yeah, right? So I think probably introduced to via friends, but that's only, you know, it is so early in life that I couldn't give you here's the moment. It was just a gradual discovery, I know the X-Men now.
Yeah, just one of these things you inherently know. It's I know who Wolverine is, I know who Professor X is. Yeah,
precisely, exactly, right? Which is weird because I can give you specifics about when I found out what Star Wars was, you know? But I couldn't give you specifics about the X-Men and Spider-Man and such. But I think that's all, honestly, because I think I may have known X-Men before I knew what Star Wars was. Which is quite a take. I think X-Men was probably X-Men and Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. These were the first superhero films I watched, along with Blade.
Probably should have been watching Blade at the same time as these movies.
Oh no, I watched Blade at a really young age. Blade 2 scared me quite a lot, actually, as a child.
Uh-huh.
When you watch Blade 2 with the mindset of it being like a Guillermo del Toro movie that's akin to like Hellboy, it's actually really comic booky, but see if you don't watch it with any of that knowledge, it's a straight up horror film, right?
Right.
So you would go to watch X-Men as like a light getaway, away from vampires and into sectarianism, you know? know?
Yeah, well, I will say, I think this movie holds up really surprisingly well, considering it's over 20 years old at this point.
Yeah.
It's still really good.
It is really good, isn't it? The messages are just as relevant today as they were 24 years ago, Kyle.
The message is really good. Some of the best superhero casting in history is in this movie.
Absolutely.
Like the three in particular. Patrick Stewart is Professor X, perfect. Ian McKellen is Magneto, perfect. And Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, perfect.
They knocked it so hard out of the park that they're still playing these roles today.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it's been a hot minute since we saw Ian McKellen as Magneto, but I kind of think we might see him again, you know? That's my tinfoil hat theory. But we're about to see Hugh Jackman return for Deadpool 3, because at time of recording, I'm sure we will discuss Deadpool 3 in this show, but right now it's not out yet. But he's returned for that. We just saw Patrick Stewart back as Professor X in Multiverse of Madness. As alluded to. Yeah. And I'm really confident we're going to see this entire cast again in like a Secret Wars or something, including Ian McKellen. So we are not done. That it's just terrific. You know the casting is good if you're almost 30 years along and they're still showing up. Yeah, they have made it almost impossible to recast any of those roles. I mean, they did do the prequels, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah. Well, yeah, so
like,
exactly.
Totally resetting the characters.
I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean. Because I will say, I think the First Class cast is excellent. And in some ways, I prefer the First Class cast for like a more kind of action film. Mm-hmm. But for the intellectual debate that you could say this film is, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, they're some top dogs. You know?
So good.
It's absolutely tremendous.
Because they're friends in real life, right? They
are friends in real life, and I think that goes so far to advance the on-screen chemistry. Mm-hmm. I actually believe these people.
Those are the two main draws of this movie, are the Professor X Magneto stuff and then the Wolverine stuff.
Can you believe, Kyle, that when they were making this, they didn't really consider Wolverine to be the lead?
That's insane.
They just thought he's the audience insert, but this is an ensemble, you know? Apparently, like, all this kind of Wolverine almost being the poster child of X-Men wasn't the case pre this film, at least not when they were making it. And it was when this film came out, everyone was like, the X-Men, it's the X-Men because of his claws, Kyle. You know?
You know what I do appreciate about this, though? It's not an origin story for any of them. The X-Men are already in full swing. They already have their secret lab and their costumes and everything. Which
I think ages this film really well, because we would then go through 10 years of a lot of origin stories through like the MCU and stuff. Mm-hmm. And we're still getting them today. But people can't be... Like, they knew with this Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, we're fed up with seeing Ben Parker get shot.
Yeah.
But or like Bruce Wayne's parents being murdered, like we're done with it. But because we're in that culture today where we can't be bothered with an origin story, that helps this film because we don't need the origin story, you know?
Yeah. I think that is part of the whole X-Men deal as well, is like they don't really have a specific origin story per se. They just sort of get superpowers one day and that's their origin story.
Because it's nature, Kyle, you know?
It's evolution, it's mutation.
Yeah, they're the future, Kyle, not us. I mean, I will say, though, I've just kind of bashed the concept of origin stories. X-Men First Class is my favourite X-Men movie. Okay. Right, so like...
I thought you were going to say, you're bashing origin stories, but X-Men Origins Wolverine, that's a real classic.
That's my favourite X-Men movie, Kyle. You know, I will be ranting and raving about that for weeks.
Yeah, it's very weird to say they didn't consider Wolverine the main character, because there's a real hierarchy of important X-Men in this movie, and Logan is clearly at the top of that pyramid.
Yeah. There's a reason that they try to, when they do the recasts for the prequels, they try to give the other characters more to do. It's because in these movies, they don't have much to do.
Yeah, it's very... Yeah, so I was actually surprised rewatching this how few X-Men are actually in it. I remembered the team being more kind of full in this first movie. I really thought Beast was in this movie for some reason, but he's not at all.
Oh yeah, Kelsey Grammer only shows up in the third one.
Really? Wow, okay.
Yeah, he's not in X2 at all. Yeah, He's only, I think Kelsey Grammer is only in 3 Marvel appearances.
Interesting.
And that includes the Marvels, by the way.
Yeah, so there's some mainstay from the X-Men who are missing. It's only really, like, at the start, the X-Men as a superhero team is only 3 people.
Storm, Jean, and Scott, yeah.
Yeah, Storm, Jean, and Cyclops, yeah.
Yeah, keep your eye open.
But it's weird too, like, because obviously the big meme is the what do you expect, yellow spandex. They didn't want to do the silly, goofy comic books costumes or whatever.
Yeah, which honestly I think they should have done.
Other than the black costumes, it's a very comic booky movie. Like, even the modern Marvel movies, they don't often use the superhero names, whereas this movie just leans all in. They're all using their superhero names all the time.
Yeah, it's like the superhero names are who they are.
Yeah, like Rogue introduces herself as Rogue.
Yeah, exactly, right? There's almost a certain, even though it's supposed to be our world for realsies, there is like a layer of camp to it.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like when Xavier is introducing the team to Wolverine, he does call them all by their actual names. But
yes.
when he addresses, like, he goes like, you know, I'm really sorry, I forget Halle Berry Storm's actual name.
Oh, this is bad. I should remember this too.
Well,
well, she's African in this movie, so I assume the name is African. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Please look it up, and then we'll edit all this.
No, not the names of real storms. Come on, oh, for goodness sake.
Aurora. And he goes, you know, oh, this is Storm, you know? And then when we get on to Scott, he's like, and this is Scott, I forget his surname.
Scott Summers.
And then with a straight face, he goes, his other name is Cyclops, or something like that, right? And I'm like, is that because he's got glasses? Why are you calling him that, you know? Like, you're not going to go, hello, everyone, this is Logan, aka Wolverine. Even though that's in his dog tag, so there is more allowance for that, you know?
Yeah, I think Cyclops draws the shortest straw in this movie for, like, likability.
Yeah, that doesn't get better.
No, because I believe in the comic books, and I as we said before, we're not comic book readers.
Yeah.
But Cyclops is generally, like, he's the man in charge of the X-Men.
He's the Captain America.
He's the Captain America type, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the Boy Scout.
He is the Boy Scout.
Whereas in this movie, he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah, and that doesn't go away, even when he's, you know, grief-riddled in future films. I think they thought man shooting lasers out of his eyes is too Superman. And we're in this era where Superman isn't cool, you know? No one liked Superman in the early 2000s. Remember all those weird stipulations for them to make a Superman, you know, lives movie or whatever? Like, he can't fly, no laser beams and stuff, you know? No one wants to talk about Superman, you know? We can't give laser eyes.
It's very weird what the public decide is too campy for superpowers.
Right. Because
we definitely went through a phase there where flying was too campy. Like, Iron Man can fly because he's got the suit.
Yeah,
but a guy just flying, that's weird, you know?
What do you think? What would you say brought that back? Superman 2013 or? Well,
I think that probably was part of it.
Probably was the big comeback because you can do like the breaking the sound barrier thing. Honestly, I'd probably say that's just an extension of Iron Man because Iron Man was the big I can fly kind of film. You know that the flight sequence in Iron Man is iconic. You know where he first learns to fly and then it freezes up. Oh, let's talk about Iron Man, shall we? No, so we haven't actually really said what our intentions are with this show, have we? I know we mentioned it on the last episode of our previous show, but what are we doing here?
Well, I mean, we're going through all of the Fox X-Men new movies, plus some others.
You'll find out them pretty soon.
Yes, well, the some others are quite front-loaded, because I guess at some point Fox decided we're just going to keep doing X-Men because none of these other ones are working.
They were smart to decide that. Yeah, so I quite enjoy actor who plays Jean Grey, whose name I also forget. I'm so unprepared.
Famke Janssen?
Yeah, she plays Xenia Onatopp in GoldenEye.
She plays Lady in TNG, who's supernaturally attractive.
Yeah.
She changes her personality to be attractive to whoever she's talking to. Was that it?
I think so. Yeah. She plays Liam Neeson's wife in the Taken movies.
She falls in love with Patrick Stewart. It's the whole thing.
Oh, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't, Kyle? You know? There's a point in this movie where she's like, Wolverine's super old. He could be older than you, Professor. That's an ouch. That's a big ouch there. Thanks for outing Xavier as being an old bastard.
Before we get into it, should we explain how these movies happened?
Go for it.
because, like, back in the day, Marvel was not doing so well. The company.
Yeah,
this is
Marvel
long
was-
before Disney bought them.
Yeah, this Marvel were on life support for a good 15 years or
Yeah,
more.
so they sold off the movie rights to their most famous characters, including Spider-Man. They sold to Sony, and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. They sold to Fox.
Yep.
And I think there was other ones as well. But those are the big
Blade
ones.
went to New Line.
Blade went to New Line. Yeah. So all of the characters that we associate with being the big Marvel characters now were not the big Marvel characters 20 years ago.
Yeah, the point of the MCU was, let's make movies from the characters we literally couldn't give what we sell, you know?
Yeah, the characters we have left.
And it worked for them, but like that's like a statistical Hail Mary. Really, the big money sellers were in production already. We had our X-Men's, we had our Fantastic Four, we had our Spider-Mans. Really, it was Fox in the early 2000s making these movies. You know, Sony obviously making Spider-Man to great success, but if you're a fan of Daredevil, if you're a fan of X-Men or Fantastic Four, they're all coming out of Fox, you know?
Yeah.
And in the early 2000s, DC was kind of non-existent as a film franchise. You had a Superman
Yeah,
movie
not
eventually.
until they got to, like, Batman Begins, which is a few years after this.
2005 is when Batman Begins came out, and that, you know,
Yeah.
1997 was Batman and Robin, so they were really scared to do anything with DC.
Yeah.
There was kind of nothing. All this stuff was relegated to like cartoons and comic books.
Yeah, I think you definitely can credit this movie to be the sort of reboot of superhero movies.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, this is a really well-aged film. What's happening in this movie, Kyle? What's the gig here?
What's the gig?
What's happening? What's the plot? What's the plot?
Well,
What is Bill Clinton trying to do?
He really is Bill Clinton, isn't he? It's
think he-
not subtle at all.
I think he looks like a hybrid of Bill Clinton and George W. Bush.
Maybe he's dodgy Southern politician man, not vaguely Southern, I guess.
Vaguely Southern, ethnically Southern.
Ethnically Southern. Yeah, well, like, yes. So historically, the X-Men are an allegory for the oppression of generally black people in America, right?
Yes,
The metaphor changes sometimes, but when they were first made, that was the metaphor. These people, they're new, we don't trust them, they're different from us. And this movie just leans heavily into it in a way that I think works.
I think that when these movies came out, it became less of an allegory for black people, despite the origins, and became more of a thing for LGBT people.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
There's a big scene in the second one we'll get to where he has to basically come out to his parents that he's a mutant. Like, that's very direct, you know? The parents are all, you know, distraught and whatnot. I'm sure we'll get there. But
yeah, and you can kind of read that in with the rogue story in this movie as well.
yeah, exactly. Like, I just touched him. I don't know. Like, almost like, you know, being gay was transmittable or something.
And they don't really go into it, but I'm assuming she was kicked out of her house after that.
It says
and that's why she ended up in Alaska.
I thought she said she ran away. Because
Maybe.
she looks into Logan's truck and she's like, man, I thought my life was rough, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like, she had a nice, comfortable home. She just couldn't touch anyone.
Yeah, but either way, she's away from home now because of that, and
Yeah.
that's a very sort of like the kid on the run. It's
Kid-
a very
kid on the
sort of
run.
modern imagery
And you could
for
read
that kind of thing.
her parents don't seem to care.
Yeah, well, they don't linger on it. It's
Yeah.
they cut away from that whole situation quite quickly.
Yeah, her parents like, well, it's for the best.
I think this movie does a good job of portraying Rogue's powers as pretty horrific.
Oh yeah, her powers in this movie are very scary, actually. Personally.
There's some real body horror in this movie.
Oh yeah, this movie was super body horror. You know, I'm surprised this movie got the rating it got. To be honest, this is a family-friendly movie, which I just can't believe. I think that it works out for her when she pesters a sleeping PTSD-riddled Wolverine who stabs her.
Great scene. I totally forgot that scene, but yeah.
Like, a really, really good scene, you know? I think that you could... I read in your notes, Kelly, you mentioned that you think this movie could almost be, like, ahead of its time, and, you know, the older guy protecting younger girl trope that we get now.
Yes. It's very Mandalorian. It's very Last of Us. It's very Star Halo Infinite.
I tell you what, I'll tell you what it is, Kel. It's very Logan 2017. See, it all starts with the X-Men, Kel. All starts with the X-Men.
But yeah, no, the Logan Rogue kind of dynamic is good. I like it. I like how it immediately kind of humanizes Logan, so he's not just this asshole. He does have a heart. He does feel things.
He's not just gruff and grumpy. There is a character there. The character isn't, she's just grumpy. You know, there is depth, there's dimension to the character.
I will say, I have always found the idea of, like, human bullies picking on mutants in these movies to be kind of laughable. Like, when that guy's like, hey, you owe me money, Logan, blah, blah, blah. What did you think was going to happen there, my dude?
Well, I guess he didn't know what the powers were, you know? He's just like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you because...
Yeah, but you know he has powers of some variety.
The assumption that he's like a mutant, but you don't know what those powers are. A mutant could just maybe be, he doesn't feel pain. That could be the power. But he could actually...
Are the metal clings when he punches people is that not in universe? Do the people not hear that?
That's non-diegetic metal hits. No, the people must be able to hear that. It could just be like he could just have like tap dancing shoes on, Kel. That's what you're hearing. Like it's an effect.
Right, okay.
As he does the punch, he clicks his heel, you know, to sound scary.
Yeah, and they've always in these movies leaned into the claws coming out is kind of horrific for Logan.
Yes, a good fan. I'm a fan of that, Kel. Because there's a quick shot, like it's not like they just go, yeah, that's what happens. Claws out. You see, like the flesh separate between knuckles as the claw comes out. It's really, I think it's really creepy, actually.
Yeah, and somehow the claws in this movie look better than they do in some of the future movies.
Well, I wouldn't possibly speculate as to why that is, Kel. I wouldn't know.
And you know what? I noted this. Logan's hair in this movie is ridiculous when you really think about it. Like, I appreciate that they went all in on the comic book hair look, but how much jelly is he putting in his hair to get that look for the double spikes on each side?
That's why he can't afford a nicer house, a nicer van.
Spending all on hair gel.
On that hair product, yeah. Don't come cheap if you need that much of it, yeah. He's got like one tub per hair spike. And that's just daily. Although I don't think Logan's a man that showers, you know.
This movie's funny as well. There's a lot of good jokes in this movie. Not so much quips, like Marvel-y quips, but just like more traditional jokes.
Bits. Yeah,
More bits. Like when Rod tells him to put a seatbelt on and then he immediately goes flying out the front of the window.
I laughed so much when he ate shit and he goes through his windscreen and there's like that drone shot, crane camera shot above him where he just slides across the snow face down. So fun. It makes because with the pre-knowledge that he's an immortal Wolverine, I'm like, like he's fine, but it's just funny to watch someone who's gonna be fine do that. I think that the funny bit where he's like, prove to me, Wolverine, that you're not Mystique. And he's like, you're a dick. And he's like, okay. It's a funny, but I think it's a funny bit. However, I think in reality that still doesn't prove anything. You should maybe Wolverine drag the body, you know, over.
That you just stabbed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's probably better.
Drag the body of Una Chin Riley from Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Una Chin Riley, yeah.
Star Trek alumni in this movie.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of the speeches about faith and humanity and all that in this film from Patrick Stewart. It's like he's just stepped out of Picard. I mean, he's still playing Picard when this first movie came out. Nemesis is 2 years later.
That's true, yeah.
This is like what Star Trek Insurrection was like 99 or something. And then you have a break, he goes to make X-Men, then he comes back and he does Nemesis, you know? So this is really like a transfer window here, you know? This is like where the passing of the torch of Patrick Stewart, they're like, there you go, X-Men. There you go, we'll pass Patrick Stewart off to you now.
Yeah, is he the biggest star in this when this movie comes out? Because Hugh Jackman's not a big star when this movie came out, obviously.
Absolutely he is, because, I mean, Lord of the Rings isn't out yet for Ian McKellen.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Patrick Stewart's the guy you know watching this. Maybe, Halle Berry?
Maybe Halle Berry was that terrible? Not terrible. I love that movie.
Die Another Day. No, Die Another Day was the same year as Nemesis, 2002. She had
right. Yeah.
I was watching this. I was like, could have this been the film that got her to do Die Another Day? Like in the audition. Like that's who I want. I want Storm from the X-Men.
Can we talk about Halle Berry's accent in this movie?
Yeah, it's an amorphous accent, isn't it?
Yeah. Here's my exact prediction of how this happened, because she doesn't keep this accent going forward, obviously. In the next movie, she just uses her normal voice.
I'll be honest, I didn't find the accent that distracting in this watch through.
The thing with it, though, is it's not like a real accent of any variety.
No,
it's like they just told her, Halle Berry, do an accent. And she was like, well, what kind of accent? It's like, I don't know, something foreign. Just do an accent.
Something foreign. Wonderful.
Yeah, this movie severely depowers Storm, I will say. Storm is like one of the most powerful mutants in the whole team. And in this, it's like she can do winds.
This film's approach to, this mutant could just easily handle this situation is, they're just not here.
Yeah, basically.
I think that, I mean, again, you know, it's an earlier comic book movie before they had answers to all these kinds of approaches, you know, that I think the MCU would quite well handle now. Back then, it was just, yeah, she's not around.
I mean, in the tier list of not doing anything with their powers, Jean Grey is at the bottom. She barely does anything in this movie.
Does a bit of telekinesis, that's it. However, that's something that will be built upon.
Yeah, well, yes.
We're going somewhere with this.
Yeah, it's very weird to see the X-Men getting their butt kicked by Toad.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you guys should be able to take this guy down in like 2 seconds.
I mean, you know who Toad is?
No.
It's Darth Maul, it's Ray Park.
Oh, of course, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's why he kicked their asses, Kel. He has Darth Maul powers.
Do you remember when he crushes a man standing up by jumping on him?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a weird shot, isn't it?
There's a few weird shots in this film, Kel.
There's a couple weird shots.
What do we think of all of the kind of standoffs in the movie? There's quite a few just standoffs where people just kind of stand and talk because they're not fighting. Like outside the train station where... Oh,
that one's great. I love that bit.
Magneto takes everyone's guns and he's ready to shoot them. And then, you know, Xavier's like, I will stop him. But I can't get into him because he has a mind-blocking helmet that you know he's got. He's had that helmet for decades, Xavier. Charles, come on.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where it's like the prequels make no sense. Like, you can really feel the history between Logan and Sabretooth, can't you?
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, Sabretooth is in this movie, he becomes completely recast to be Ray Donovan for the prequel, and he's never in any other film. Mm-hmm. I think they spoke about having him show up in Logan for, like, a brief period of time, but then they were like, nah, we gotta focus this film on.
Sabretooth in this movie is nothing. He's just a big growly man.
Yeah, big henchman man.
And when he finally talks, it's not even his voice. It's Professor X speaking through him.
Yeah, it's Charles. But then, like, Magneto was like, listen, I'm just gonna kill them. You can't, like, stop me, actually. And then he's like, oh, I stopped the bullet right at his head, but I don't think I can stop them all.
Oh, Magneto's powers are so cool in this movie. That if anyone gets the highlight of their powers, it's Magneto in this movie. They do so many interesting things with Magneto's powers.
I saw you ask, how can he fly? Yes. I believe it's the iron in his blood.
Ah, okay.
Like,
that sounds like it would be painful.
Maybe he can't feel his feet when he does it, you know?
Because I think usually when I see Magneto flying things, he just puts like a little metal disc under his feet and he elevates that.
Yeah, no, I think it's like iron in the air, iron in the blood, something like that. I think they do explain it at one point. That's me just making that up. That I just think that in my head they do explain it. That there isn't no reason I'm saying that, you know. But yeah, Magneto, so I love the look. They're all dressed so fly. Patrick Stewart got some great suits in this film as Xavier. Magneto this is the first time that I think I ever saw Ian McKellen as like a spry character that's capable of maybe doing some actual physical walking around and running and stuff.
Because you're used to seeing him as Gandalf.
You're seeing him as Gandalf, and then whenever you see him as Magneto after this, he really is kind of becoming an old man. Where in this, yes, he's got the grey hair, but he's not, you know, super old. He's like when he's walking around in his lair, he's sort of like, you know, got a swagger to him and everything. Like he's a physical actor in this.
Yes.
Which I think
he brings that Shakespearean theatre acting to it.
Yeah, he's walking like King Lear or something. He's very good.
All of his lines are golden too.
Yeah. Absolutely. He just, you know, what is it when he does that weird shot of him growling at the senator through the orb thing where his teeth's out and everything is rah. And then after Senator Kelly gets turned into a mutant, he walks past him when he's all weakened and he's like, welcome to the Brotherhood or welcome brother or something.
Yes.
All these little ones.
Welcome to the future, brother.
Yeah, exactly, right.
He's got lots of both grandiose moments and just fun jokes.
I like
the character in making jokes.
I like the fun bit where Senator Kelly's broke out through his prison cell, right? And Magneto leans over the edge of the prison cell to look out to see him clambering there, and Magneto's not like looking down at him. He's sort of got like his elbows down on the window ledge, just like looking down at him, just leaning. He's like just having a casual chat, like he's not looking intimidating. I can imagine him like kicking his legs behind him as he's talking, you know, like he's just leaning over the edge. A little bit of levity, a little bit of levity. I think Magneto's definitely a character who enjoys the theatrics of everything. But given all of this, how at the start of this film can both he and Xavier sit in anonymity in the Senate hearing with Jean Grey talking about why mutants aren't a threat?
I guess the way it's supposed to be played in this movie is like Magneto hasn't done anything this public before.
I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so.
It seems like before this movie starts, like all of them are still kind of anonymous.
Yeah.
Like people must know what Xavier's school is for because it's like a public school, but they don't necessarily know who Professor X is.
Yeah. This is a school for like gifted. The public face. That's what he says. He's like, our public face is we're like a school for exceptional children. Invite only. But then he's like, when you're in, we have, it's all for mutants, and we have a basketball court that opens up for the X-Jet. Okay, what's better, this or the JSA building?
This mansion is pretty fly. This is a sweet mansion. I will say.
Really enjoy when Wolverine first wakes up in the X mansion and he hears whispers of Charles saying, like, he's over there. What's that? He's coming. And Wolverine's like ducking and diving all his military training. Really traumatises the soldier would be waking up in a strange military base underground that's all metal. And he goes...
Yeah, and I will say too, their little X base, it's not the most like...
immediately...
heroic looking base. Yeah.
It's not the most immediately recognisable as the place of friendship. And then he goes up the elevator and he's running. He's all coming some wooden fancy estate building. And he's hiding behind a pillar and kids run past him. He's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then he hears another whisper. It's like, oh, I'm in here. And he runs in and he's like panting and like really panicking, and just it's like a classroom full of like people being lectured to by Charles.
Yeah, I think it's just he's just in his office talking to some obvious Easter egg children who they're like, hey, we might be important characters in future movies.
Hello, Jubilee.
Hello, Jubilee. Hello, Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, exactly. Was that Kitty Pryde?
Yeah, she walks through the wall.
Of course it was. Yeah, recast coming up. Of course.
Yes, well, quite. But yeah, it definitely was Kitty Pryde, because he even says something like, thanks, Kitty, or something like that. I thought he said Katie,
but yeah,
And yeah, Iceman is there as well.
Yeah, Iceman's there. Iceman's kind of already a character in this movie.
Kind of. He wasn't in it as much as I remembered. He's only in a couple scenes.
Yeah, but he's like in this movie, and he's in, future Pyro's in this film very briefly to be recast in X2.
Yes.
A lot of characters get recast in this movie if they were just...
I don't understand the physics of freezing a fireball, but I guess you can do that.
You've frozen a gas.
Yeah, no, I like the skill stuff. There's not that much skill stuff in this movie, actually, but I do enjoy the parts that we see. I find it funny that the superheroes are also teachers. It's like Sky High, but, the real version.
Yeah. So I kind of, I don't know, I got like maybe the impression that that this was... I've completely lost the analogy, I'm sorry. Oh, God. This is like a thing. This exists elsewhere. Oh.
This is a thing that exists elsewhere?
Like teachers that are also active in the field, like they do the homeschooling, but they also save the day.
This isn't ringing any bells for me.
Why am I suddenly thinking of the Thunderbirds?
Because of the basketball court that opens up for the ship to come in.
Yeah, that must be it. That's what this whole thing was for. Yeah, No, but it's like, they live in this secluded place and they have like a life, where everyone's sort of living in the island and stuff, and one of them's at school. And then, come the alert symbol, they all go into their tubes and go into the basement, and they all get in their one piece with different color stripes, and they go to be the Thunderbirds.
What? Those leather. Thinking about all that leather, that must be so hard to move in. Leather's not super flexible.
Yeah, leather's not super flexible. So I think when I was younger, this kind of was the X-Men look to me.
Yes.
The leather look. I enjoyed in The Last Stand where it's still all the leather, but every character is a different coloured accent lining.
Right.
Kitty Pryde's pink, Wolverine's got yellow, Storm's white stripe lining. I don't know what Scott has. Jean has red. I quite enjoyed that. Like, I was a fan of like uniformity with just different accents. I was always a fan of that.
That's the Star Trek influence, isn't it?
This was before Star Trek, though.
Well, not before Star Trek's coloured uniforms.
No, but like for me, like I can't say, you like that because you like Star Trek. Like I hadn't seen Star Trek when I watched these.
Yes. Oh, imagine that time before Nathan has seen Star Trek.
If it was pre-2009, I think I've never seen Star Trek before. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Me watching accented One Piece uniforms and not going, a Star Trek thing.
Yeah, well, the costumes are okay. I mean, Storm usually Storm's the most easy translation because this is kind of Storm's costume usually anyway.
Vaguely black with like a cape.
Yeah, that's basically Storm's look in the comics most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. I prefer the yellow costumes. I haven't watched it yet, but I believe in X-Men 97 they do the opposite of the joke. Like, what would you prefer, black leather or something like that?
Yeah, I've not seen it either, but yeah, I think I've read that as well. I think that if these characters show up in Secret Wars, they'll all be in black leather.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, because nostalgia. Yeah.
Because nostalgia, yeah. Black leather X-Men, that's what we're going to get.
It's just a very 90s choice, isn't it? Especially when you see Cyclops, he just looks like a guy out of the Matrix.
Yeah, he does, absolutely. It worked for Blade that came out just prior to this. We're all about that black leather and edgy lordness. And, Magneto has the red lining. He's a nice red lining. I'm a fan. Magneto really looks the best in this film.
Oh yeah, Magneto's costume is great in this movie because they do the helmet and somehow they make the helmet not look super silly.
Yeah, Magneto
it just works.
Is Magneto the MVP of X-Men 2000, Kyle?
Yes, 100%. He's my favourite character in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Magneto is, this is always the case for Magneto, but this is absolutely the template for a villain who has a point, right? Because a lot of these movies, they try and do the villain has a point, but then they just sort of but also he wants to murder everyone. This is the Killmonger problem, right?
Yeah.
Where Killmonger in Black Panther, he has a point, but also he just wants to murder the rest of the world with advanced weaponry. It's so okay, fine. I guess we just need to stop him then.
Yeah, I guess he's too far.
Whereas in this, Magneto's plan, it makes perfect sense. It just has a flaw that he isn't aware of. And you feel like if you could sit him down and properly explain this to him, he'd be like, okay, well, I need to rethink this plan.
Well, I would also say involuntary genetic augmentation of the population probably isn't something to aspire to.
No, it's bad, but his goal is equality, right? Or not equality, but he wants his people to not be oppressed anymore, right?
That is his goal, yes.
That's his goal, and and his plan, even if it's bad, it might work, if it didn't kill people.
Yeah, if it wasn't genetically unstable and had everyone turned to slosh monsters.
Yeah. Horrifying, by the way.
Horrifying. Yeah, right, where he's just leaking on the bio bed or whatever.
Yeah, where he bubbles up into sludge.
You can still see the face. Yeah, I always people turning into gelatinous states. We've seen Star Trek: Deep Space Nine. I always watch that kind of thing to be okay, where is the point where this is no longer a face? You watch the nose and you see the water ripple. Everyone's I can still see the eyebrow ridges and the mouth, and you go, all right, that's gone now. He's gone. Bye bye. He's now just sludge. He can't hold the shape. And you can see where that CGI asset turns into a real bucket of water someone threw on the floor. And Halle Berry runs away.
It was an interesting way to humanise the otherwise, pretty one-note character of Senator Kelly, the man who hates mutants.
It's interesting to see, because he's hey, I didn't want to go to a hospital in case they treated me like a mutant. And you're
like you treat us.
Yeah, you treat us. And then he's we're not all the same. And he's we'll try telling that to the person that's just done this to me.
Yeah. He's not fully on board with the whole mutant thing yet, but,
Yeah, but I mean, it might kind of bring a quality if Magneto was successful, but it wouldn't bring around peace.
No, that's
there
fair.
would be people that are still out for blood to the people who did this to them. Yes. You could be hey, I'm a natural mutant or am I an augmented mutant?
Yeah, it's what I mean though. He's flawed in his logic. He's an extremist, but he is If someone was to look this 1,000 years in the future, they're well, he's kind of on the right side of history, though,
Yeah, it's the MLK.
Yes,
Malcolm
well,
X
obviously,
thing, yeah.
The original characters. This is the influence on these two characters,
and they're white for reader accessibility purposes.
Yes, well, yes, Nathan. If you want white people to understand racism, you make it happen to white people.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly right. That's why I call everyone cracker these days.
Yeah, I also in saying that though, they do Magneto's backstory is so explicitly tied to
the
Nazis and the Holocaust. Yeah,
we get a lot.
And they lead right into that straight away.
Yeah, we get a lot more of that in future films, and it's really effective. That's kind of where people talk about if you do this now, how do you do it? Do you make him a victim of? Do you make him Vietnamese? Do you have like he lived in Cambodia in the 70s? Like US
They were already
bombing?
pushing their luck with the Holocaust when this came out. Like, how old is Magneto supposed to be?
Oh no,
He
not
must
at
be in,
all.
like his
Not at all.
70s or 80s,
Not
right?
at all. What was the Holocaust was like 55 years before this?
Yeah, so
But say he's 10 years old in 2000 in 1945, right? Just say because that happened in 44, right? So
Yeah.
he could totally be in his like 60 years old in 2000 in this.
well,
all be
this is
perfect.
the not too distant future. Remember?
Oh, yeah, sorry. He could be 66 years old, Ken. Like,
Fair enough.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, like, I was thinking about this when I was watching it now, because, you know, time warps and people perceive time differently, and I was like, hey, no, actually, it is, when you think of it from a 2024 perspective, it's like, actually, no, the year 2000, the Holocaust was only 50 years ago, you know, give or take 5 years, you know? And I think that you still have a lot of people there because again, he wasn't like he was an adult when it happened, he was a child.
Yeah.
He's definitely, like, you could have a human in that point that hasn't even reached retirement age that experienced that yet, you know?
Him kind of unlocking his powers is also like just a really interesting and neat visual, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. The chain.
Bending the barbed wire the chain link fences.
I
and
have
stuff.
a question
yeah.
for you, Kyle. How many of these films have you seen? X-Men specifically.
Oh, okay. Let me see the list. I've definitely seen the first 3. I think for some reason I've seen X-Men Origins.
That was kind of
Wolverine.
at the same. I think X-Men Origins came out before Last Stand, so.
It didn't. It's
Did it?
Last Stand is 2006. Wolverine is 2009.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Like, after X-Men Origins Wolverine is when they rebooted it with the prequels.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, so they're like, well, this
And
is
I
shit.
don't think I've seen any of the prequels. I've seen both the Deadpool movies. I've seen some of the New Mutants, but I gave up because it was really boring.
I've not seen the New Mutants, Kyle.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I have not seen most of these movies.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing what you think of the First Class cast, because a lot of this is kind of maybe
Yeah, this is
retold,
all
as
Michael
it were.
Fassbender stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all really effective, you know. I think that someone we haven't really lingered on is Mystique in this movie, Kyle.
Yes,
That's a
I
look.
like Mystique.
That's a
in this movie.
look, isn't it?
It's certainly a look. It's this is predates Avatar. This is the first of the blue people.
Yeah, this is the first of the blue people. Yeah, no tail though, no tail.
No tail. Yeah. I like. She's not much of a character really, but it's a very typical like I'm a villain performance.
Yeah, she's a henchman. She's more than Sabretooth.
But I like the performance. She's very physical. I love the way she fights. It's very fluid.
Yeah, she's like an acrobat or something.
Yeah.
Very effective, and the fact that she would go on to be Una Chin Riley is is just convenient for our selfish purposes, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I don't mind the naked look. I think it makes sense. How does she morph clothes? Presumably, like in the comics, I don't think they ever really linger on that in the comics. What happens to her clothes when she transforms? Are the clothes just a part of her? I guess they are.
The First Class movies, where she's more of a character, they sort of visualize it a lot better.
Okay.
So yes, the clothes are essentially just part of her. It's all part of the chameleon sort of look. But the CGI and stuff kind of conveys it in a way that's obvious, and in a way that they kind of don't do it for henchmen in these movies, because they want her to be a blue naked lady, you know?
I do like the way that the effect works in this movie, where it kind of like it's like flickers between her forms.
Yeah, like it shimmers.
I will say, I think that the shots where she reveals her eyes to the camera are a bit on the nose. It's like, haha, I'm ready to undescribe.
Like a camera flashes at Senator Kelly, and oh, it's Mystique. Ah!
Yeah, or when she's disguised as Iceman earlier in the movie, and she just looks to the side and turns her eyes back to normal.
It's for us, Kyle. It's for us.
Yeah. I figured it out before she did that because he was being weird.
He told Rogue to get the fuck out, leave.
Yeah, and she poisons Cerebro somehow.
She puts in some sort of venom.
Yes.
Very similar to the venom used in Star Wars Acolyte Episode 2.
Sweet topical reference.
Sweet
Nathan.
topical reference. You can tell we're recording this, ladies and gentlemen. I think that the plant of Wolverine's backstory in this movie is quite a good... Like, that went somewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting too that there's a lot of stuff in this movie where it really feels like they were banking on this becoming a franchise.
Yeah,
and that's definitely one of them.
There's like the film ends with Wolverine getting some answers to a compound that might, lead them to more answers. They do some flashbacks through the scene of him getting the adamantium, which is something you would then see in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like, it's...
They deliberately leave both Magneto and Mystique alive at the end of this movie.
Yes.
And it's like they're going to come back to cause trouble later.
I bet when the studio heads watch this, they're like, we've got something here, you know?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you get a case where, like, the studio don't know what they've got. I think they knew what they had with this.
Yeah, they were like, wait, we can make so many toys out of this franchise, let's go.
That's a lot of Happy Meals.
It's a lot of Happy Meals.
That's a lot of Happy Meals. But, I mean, I'm fine with it. Absolutely. That's just... I like it when a studio can show confidence in their property. And it's not like the Dark Universe thing where we'll do a full cast CGI photo before we've shot anything because we know what we've got. This was like when once we have made it, we know what we've got, you know?
Yeah, I don't think at this point they were thinking this will be like a multiverse situation. I think they were like, we're going to get a few sequels out of this movie.
Yeah, we'll get to X-Men Last Stand out of this, you know? Mm-hmm. And then we'll make a whole new sub-genre franchise called X-Men Origins, parentheses, character name, you know?
Yeah, that went great. That was a great plan.
Yeah, well, we only got one of them. We're still waiting on that Channing Tatum Gambit movie, Kyle.
I will say, okay, we talking a lot of good stuff. There's as with any movie, I have a couple nitpicks. Okay,
go for it.
You know, I think Rogue never really uses her powers in an interesting way in this movie, other than to heal herself with Logan.
I think that's that is the moment for her. That's like, okay, well, here's... Because the whole film you're questioning, this is just horrific. What the hell is this? This is an awful mutation. And then you go, here's its possible utility, which then leads to be the MacGuffin of the movie, you know, because he wants to Magneto wants to transfer his powers.
I would have felt the MacGuffin of it, though, is Magneto's plan is to transfer his powers to her so that she can supercharge this machine, right?
Yeah, so her...
And I was expecting, like, for her to use Magneto's powers against him somehow at one point.
Right, okay, yeah,
Isn't that the thing you would do at that point?
It's the year 2000, Kel. We can't have women doing too much.
But Nathan, do you know what happens when a toad gets struck by lightning?
It's the same thing that happens to everything, Kyle, I believe. I like that line.
It's not like a joke, though. It's just a very strange line.
It's like an anticlimax. It's like...
Yeah.
It's like, of course, you know? Like she's about to say something super deep that, like, it has the audience go, what's the answer going to be? And she's like a professor, so she's like, fucking same thing that happens to everything, you idiot. Zap! Like, it's a zinger, you know? It's a bazinga.
It's another favourite line with Magneto's in the movie, where he's like, blast him, Storm. And he's like, yes, a bolt of lightning to a giant copper conductor. I thought you worked in a school.
Yeah. I mean, he was quite clever. He's like, okay, we've got the laser Cyclops man. We're going to put the person he loves in front of his face and take his glasses off so he can't look.
Oh my god, Cyclops needs to get that thing more secure to his head. Jeez, that thing people just keep ripping that thing off.
Right? And then...
buckle that thing down.
So see when he's got those glasses on, he's got his eyes open, is he just constantly shooting laser beams into his glasses? But like...
Yeah, I think so,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
It's like absorbing them, it's like refracting them or something,
it's
I don't know.
It's like diffusing it or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Then with Storm, we're inside Statue of Liberty, it's made of copper, of course you're not going to use your fucking powers. Mm-hmm. And Wolverine, we're going to put your claws facing in towards your chest. Like, it's a really clever sort of, we've got everything down here, you know?
Yeah, and then for Jean Grey, it's like, we don't need to worry, she's not going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, Magneto knows the suppression into her, you know? I guess that's all stuff for future movies.
I mean, that's not a thing that's been revealed yet in this movie, but yes, that is a thing.
You can read that into the lore if you so choose as to why he was just like, I didn't do anything. What kind of mutant is she? Yeah, she can move some stuff around. Speaking
of Jean Grey, though, other thing I don't like about this movie, Logan constantly hitting on Jean Grey.
I hate that. It's not funny. It's not kind of it's
a very 90s like kind of vibe.
It's sleazy
in like a bad way. It's sleazy. Yeah. And yeah, it becomes this whole like contest between Logan and Wolverine, and not Wolverine,
Cyclops.
And Cyclops.
Does it ever become a contest though? I just feel like he's hitting on her. She sympathizes with him, but feels nothing for him in this movie. And then Scott is just like, fucking, what are you doing, you fucking creep? We don't even know you. You've just been brought here.
The problem with that though is Cyclops isn't very likable either.
Yeah, but I think that, to be fair to him, Wolverine has done nothing to him to make him have any sort of positive interaction with him, and the entire film is sort of through Wolverine's
this
lens.
is a side effect of Logan being the focal point character.
Yeah,
because we don't really spend much time with Cyclops on his own.
Precisely.
See what his vibe is.
Precisely. And then I think a problem that the future movies in this trilogy will go down is it pretends that Wolverine isn't being a sleazeball here. Like there's some mutual, and it's just a bit kind of. That's my criticism. That's it. That's the criticism of the movie. Kill Wolverine's just a sleazy, not nice.
Yeah, and it's
person.
only in the most of the movie. Logan is quite likable.
Yeah,
it's just these scenes with Jean Grey where he just gets a bit
any
weird.
scene with Jean and you're like, no. Like with he's like picking up Rogue and stuff. She's clearly terrified and whatnot. And like he's like, yeah, what's your part? And he's like, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. Like he's a human person, and no mutation shocks him. He's a very accepting person because he's been around for so long. He's seen every sort of mutation under the sun. Like nothing surprises him. He's just like,
yeah. I think all of his scenes with Rogue are really good.
Absolutely, they do give off like a older brother kind of thing. Yeah, like this. It feels like it's a family thing, but not a father-daughter thing. More like a cousin or something, brother thing.
Like a mentor type thing.
Kind of, yeah, but I think there's a lot more affection there. I think that's a really good strong point. It's just romantically, he's a sucker.
Yeah. And yeah, part of that too is I don't really feel any chemistry between Jean Grey and Cyclops either, frankly. But
not a romance. These are a bunch of nerds, Kyle. Kyle, these are superhero movies, Kyle. They can't do it. They can't do the romance. There's no such thing. They're all bookworms. They're all cyclopses and scientists. Kyle, they're all losers. You know what, Kyle? We should note down the Stan Lee cameo in every one of these movies, Kyle. I think that should be like a bit that we do.
Was there a Stan Lee cameo? Did I miss
There was,
it?
yes, it's in my notes. So when Senator Kelly comes out of the ocean, he gets out of Cyclops Magneto's lair, and he's like walking on the beach, and he's all like naked and gross and everything. He's
like a weird jelly man.
Yeah, he walks past a hot dog stand, and one of the customers at the hot dog stand is Stan Lee. He's got like he's got red swimming trunks and a blue shirt. And like,
I totally missed him.
He's not. The camera is never the he is in focus, but the camera isn't like, oh, look at Stan Lee. He's just there.
Yeah, it's not like future Stan Lee cameos where he has a little line. Or whatever.
He's not like, or even if like you think of him in the Incredible Hulk cameo where there's a shot of him just taking something out the fridge and getting sick from drinking like a bottle. It's not even that. There are multiple of people in the frame. He's just there, but he's only like there with like the hot dog vendor guy. But I definitely did notice him. Yeah, so we do have a Stan Lee. This week, Stan Lee shows up at the hot dog stand. That's what we're going to do, Kyle. Every episode, Where is Stan Lee? That's the segment, Kyle.
Right, yeah. Does anyone use a phone book in this movie?
Does anyone use a phone book in this movie? Probably not, actually.
I mean, how did Rogue find Wolverine in the first place, or was that a coincidence?
An ordnance survey map. No, she's looking to get taken to a city, and the truck driver's like, "Yeah, this is it, kid," and it's just like a fighting pit.
Yeah, it's weird.
I think she was looking for Wolverine. Who knows? No, because then she sneaks into the back of his truck and is like, "I needed a ride." So I think she's just on the run. I don't think she's seeking out Wolverine at all.
I mean, she definitely at that point she knew he was a mutant. Though.
Oh yes. But she's like, "I just needed a ride to get somewhere," but she doesn't know where she's going. And then Professor X and Cerebro find that someone's coming for Wolverine and or Rogue and sends in Scott and Storm at like lightning flash fast speeds. They got there super fast.
Well, I guess that wasn't actually supposed to be Alaska. I think it was upstate New York, as they said. Or they just been driving for ages. I don't know.
Oh no, I think it's all in Alaska, but the X-Jet flew there quick.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the X-Jet's very fast.
Yeah, the X-Jet can cross country.
Is it called the X-Jet?
Why it should be.
I don't know what it's called.
Why would you?
The X-Jet just seems weird.
I think the X-Jet rolls off the tongue. I think the X-Jet's really cool.
Oh, they did mention that he went to Ellis Island. That's where all the politicians were meeting at night. Like,
it's a fancy dinner, Kyle. You get lots of like state dinners and stuff where everyone shows up and it's like a fashion show.
Outdoors at night.
Yes, Kyle. That's what they
It just seems a bit weird.
This is
but anyway, yeah, Ellis Island. I've been there. It's cool.
No, see, I've never. Of course, you've been. I've never. Does it look like that, Kyle?
Well, it's hard to say because it's nighttime. But yeah, it's like It was the initial place where all of the like immigrants to America were sort of processed.
That's familiar.
So it's sort of a museum now that you can walk around and see the the old facilities where these things were happened.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
It is interesting. It's included on the ferry that takes you to Liberty Island, but half the people don't go there because they just want to see Liberty Island. But if you New York tourist trip from Kyle, you should go to Ellis Island.
I would.
It's much quieter and it's cool.
I would go to Ellis Island and Liberty. I would go to both places.
Well, yeah, obviously you should not go to Liberty Island.
It's tourist trash nonsense, Kyle. The gift shops on the New Jersey side of the border.
The view from the actual island to the statue isn't as cool because you're up right next to it,
Oh, right, yeah, I suppose so. Do you get a good view of the Statue of Liberty from Ellis Island?
I think so, yeah. You get a good view of the statue from most of the city, to be honest.
I don't think you do if you're like...
not from in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah, if you're like up city Manhattan, Like if you're in Times Square, you ain't seeing the statue.
No, well, yeah, but there's plenty of places you can get a good view of the statue.
This message brought to you by the New York State Tourism Board. Our first sponsor, Kyle.
Yeah, good stuff.
Magneto's plastic prison, Kyle.
Magneto's plastic prison is cool.
They
would have to spend months engineering that thing, though.
Well, absolutely. And how far away does anything need to be from Magneto before you can control it? Because I can see in the void there's a little office window that security guards can sit and look at him. They must have metal in there. Yeah, did they calculate the minimum distance? Maybe he needs to see the metal to be able to. They just can't have it in window view,
Instead of building it of plastic, maybe they should just build it out of stone like a normal prison.
I bet the walls are made out of stone. But I think in stone you need to have what are they called, barbs and stuff, the metal rods and stuff.
You don't have to. If you wanted it to be extra secure, you can do that, but you can just build it out of bricks.
Well, it's a high security prison, Kyle. You need to have it extra secure.
I guess.
I enjoy the tube that kind of retracts like a docking port in a starship.
Uh-huh.
It's like they're getting ready to board his prison, and they have a chessboard, Kyle, and he plays some chess.
Yeah, Magneto and Professor X playing chess is just such a vibe.
It's a visual metaphor for the film, Kyle. That's what it is.
It is a visual metaphor for the film because Charles wins at the end. He gets a checkmate.
Yeah, and Magneto knocks himself over, doesn't he? Because it's his own undoing, Kyle. He done it to himself, Kyle. Do you see? Do you see, Kyle?
I see. That is cinema.
That pure. Martin Scorsese loves X-Men 2000. This is his favourite of the Marvel.
We don't talk about the man who directed these films anymore.
There wasn't a director.
No. They were directed by Patrick Stewart, as I recall.
This is Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and Hugh Jackman's passion project.
Patrick Stewart, I'm sure, is a huge fan of the X-Men comics.
Oh, clearly he's read every page. I think this was just a chance for him to get taken away from being typecast as Captain Picard.
I mean, he's playing a character pretty similar to Captain Picard.
Yeah, he gets to wear a suit and, he never needs to stand up. He's always in his captain's chair.
There is one scene where he's in Senator Kelly's memories and he stands up and I'm like, was that a requirement from Patrick Stewart? I was like, I'm not sitting in this chair this entire time. I'll stand up.
Yeah, I mean, he probably spends enough time standing between takes, I don't imagine that that would have been a specific requirement for him. But I do enjoy that he does have use of his legs in the Mindscape. It's just a little interesting quirk that, this isn't real, he can do whatever he likes.
Yeah.
The prequel First Class era films kind of go into how he gets in the wheelchair and trade-offs for powers versus legs and stuff like that, It's all good stuff, I think this film is a really solid foundation for the franchise we'll get. This is by no means my favourite movie in the X-Men lineage. I don't think it might be my top 3, to be honest. I just think it's a solid first entry that's good enough to get the ball rolling for better things. And far worse things, though.
Yeah, it's get the ball rolling for the modern era of superheroes.
Yeah. It did. Kevin Feige. Is Kevin Feige credited in this movie? I think he's credited on the Spider-Man movies as an executive producer or something.
He might be. I wasn't looking out for him, I'll be honest.
Yeah, neither was I, but I think I'm going to keep a look for that, actually, because Kevin Feige is a weird he was a good industry company man for a long time. He worked for Fox, he worked for Sony, he worked as different levels of production on these films, and then for Marvel Studios, that's where they brought him on board to hey, you middle management, come head up our side gig.
It's like how Kathleen Kennedy got her job as well, right? She was working in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, but also she was the number 2 to George Lucas, she pretty much deserved, she was the next in line for, the throne.
Whereas Kevin Feige was just some guy.
Yeah, exactly, right? No one cared about who Kevin Feige was.
Good. Yeah, good. A solid start.
A solid start. I think we agree with that.
Would you like to know what our next movie is?
Can I just note here?
Uh-huh.
Kevin Feige not featured in the early X-Men movies. His first appearance that I can see here is in Elektra.
Oh boy, what a solid start.
Yeah. And Spider-Man 2 and Fantastic Four 2. That's where he'll start showing up.
Well, speaking of Elektra, our next movie is our first deviation from the X-Men. It is, of course, 2003's Daredevil.
Well, don't get used to hearing Daredevil being spoken about, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, if you were looking forward to us talking about X2, you'll need to wait a little bit longer because the front load of this podcast takes a lot of detours.
Well, it's our second season, and our second episode is again the reintroduction of Ben Affleck, so that's exciting.
Yeah, you're right, actually, yeah.
It's a weird coincidence.
Oh, apparently he was an associate producer in X-Men 2000. I'm sorry, he is on this credits. Yes, so Ben Affleck, we're not actually ever getting away from him. Ben Affleck is, this is Enter the Snyderverse.
We can't, I don't think there's a third big franchise that has Ben Affleck in it, is there? He's not in any of, the Fast and Furious movies or whatever.
We're going to do a Good Will Hunting episode, Kyle.
The Good Will Hunting verse.
The Good Will Hunting verse, yeah, exactly. We're going to just go through every...
I guess he isn't like those Jay and Silent Bob movies, isn't he?
Never watched them.
There's a large amount of those movies.
Never watched them. Couldn't tell you a thing, Kel. Let's watch The Accountant.
What you can tell us, though, is where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, Kel, people can find me, as always, at Nathan Tinney, anywhere they use the internet. They can find me on Twitter, Hive, not anymore, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Mastodon. I have an account on Tumblr, but I'm never there, but, go look, I guess. You can also find it in Kyle's comment sections. I haven't been there as much recently. I thought of leaving a big essay under his DCEU video about Birds of Prey.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I know you were waiting for it, and I wrote a bunch of comments, but then thought, no, he made a joke about an essay. I need to write something of multiple paragraphs. And I just kind of forgot to get back round to it. It's still something I want to do.
Yeah, I was expecting you at least to list out your list. That's what I wanted.
Oh, that's right. You'll get more than that, Kyle. We'll see. But Kyle, where can people find you online?
Yes, well, speaking of my comment section, you can of course find me at Kyle the Scot on YouTube, where I do video essays and game critiques. I do use Tumblr sometimes, but only to promote my YouTube channel, so that's what that is. And I don't use any other social media, so that's me. I'm internet absent.
Internet absent. I also still run or at Enter the DCEU Twitter account, and for postings of this, we'll be going back to the name not included Twitter account, I believe. I'm not quite sure yet. You'll see where this is posted.
That's your domain.
Yeah, that's my domain. You'll find out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, thank you very much for listening, and we will be here next time to talk about 2003's Daredevil.